to go and election once again in the Philippines, but make no mistake about it, they say that this coming election in the Philippines is going to be the turning point for our country that's included in the top 20 most corrupt countries in the whole world. We need change in our nation right now, but how credible will this upcoming election be? That's what we're going to be talking about today on the show. Last Monday, I had a privilege of joining a group that convened for clean elections in the Philippines, at ito po ang isa sa mga napag-usapan namin.
In fact, I'm not calling it just Villar, it's Villar Arroyo. Yeah. Because there are plans, okay, to just subvert the election so that the candidate of the president, unfortunately, Gibo Teodoro, is not moving up as much. Okay, single digit pa rin, and there's only 70 days left. So, I think it is true that Manny Villar and the first gentleman have an agreement, you know, that we will support you, but you have to support us. What is it? It's basically having all of this wealth, and if she is no longer in power, then she is vulnerable. She may be, you know, there may be a plunder charge against her, so that by running as congresswoman in Pampanga, all right, so she still keeps herself immune because she still can see all of the congressmen that she had supported. You know, the CDO, the pork barrel is called Community Development Fund. If you are good for her, you get it. But kung kalaban ka niya, you don't get it. So Chis Escudero, for the 9 years that he was congressman and the 3 years that he is senator, never gave a single cent to Sorsogon because he is opposition. So in other words, when she is among the congressmen in Congress, then it is easy for her to influence them. Okay? And their final plan is to change the constitution, make us parliamentary, elect her as prime minister, and Manny Villar as president. Oh, Lord. Okay. So that's scene number 1.
Yan po ang mga pinagbulong-bulungan ngayon sa ating komunidad. But you know, today on the show, we're not going to be whispering about that. We're going to bring that out in the open. We're going to discuss that kasama ang ilan sa mga, ang isa sa mga pinakaka-admire po natin dito sa ating komunidad. One of the speakers of our community, staunch pillars of our community, Prosi de la Cruz. Hello and welcome to Kababayan, LA.
Kumusta naman, Janelle?
Ayan, Kababayan supporter as well. And Prosi, we met you before because of the election dito sa Amerika. You actually helped mobilize the community for change. How are we going to be able to learn from the election that happened here in order to have clean, peaceful, credible elections in the Philippines?
Kasi, Janelle, when we decided to mobilize for Obama, we gave it our all, which means we became poll watchers, we became organizers for meetings, and we opened our homes to do house meetings. So we gave as much information as we can, and we respected the audience, and we allowed them to make up their minds. Because after all, voters are very reasonable. And I think in America, we're very, very fortunate because in our American Constitution, we have built-in methods of resistance through the ballot. And so the Americans respect the ballot, and they respect it by voting change.
Although ang problema, Prosi, sa Philippines, they're saying that Filipinos are not as educated when it comes to voting. Dahil marami pa rin ang nagugutom, ma-offeran mo lang ng konting pera, boboto na kung nabibili yung boto.
Naiintindihan ko yung, Janelle, no? When a person is hungry, sometimes they'll take the food and the money, and they'll forget about their conscience and their values and their morals. But I think this is a different period. You know, before I think the devil was in charge. I think now God's in charge. God wants us to redeem our soul, you know, in the Philippines. And I think right now, I think the people are much more mature. And we have in the Philippines 65,000 poll watchers that have registered. Before we didn't have that. You know, we didn't have students from the universities watching the polls. And then we also have 72,000 teachers that are going to be watching the elections. So there's a lot of people involved. And then the Filipino Americans are also involved.
Right.
They're awake, and some of them are planning to also be international observers.
All right. And marami din mga kababayan tayo dito sa Amerika are holding talks here. I know you just came from a talk giving a talk last Saturday. Our phone number is up on the screen. We want to hear from you. Ano bang inyong mga kuro-kuro, haka-haka tungkol sa nalalapit na eleksyon? Earlier, that was Loida Nicolas Lewis, isa sa mga pinaka-influential Filipinas here in the U.S., talking about clean elections in the Philippines. Do you believe that? Do you believe that it could be a scenario na change ang constitution, magiging parliamentary yung government, magiging prime minister si GMA at president si Villar?
I think if the electorate is asleep and if the country is asleep, that scenario would be very, very feasible. But I think it's a remote possibility. It's more of a fear of the elite and a fear of the people that hold power. But people that are voting and people that are on the ground and the people that are ordinary citizens like teachers, yung mangingisda, yung magsasaka, they're not afraid of that because they believe that, they can do something about, the polls.
And the thing is, it's only scenario number 1. There is scenario number 2. Maari din pong mangyari sa nalalapit na eleksyon. And this one, I believe, is scarier, more scary. And we will show that to you when we return. Don't go away.
Guys, we came up a little short today.